Part 2 for the chapter 28, and we're looking at here the endocrine system, which includes all the cells that secrete hormone inside and into the bloodstream. Now remember, hormones do not carry out chemical reaction. They are just messenger that alter the biochemistry of a cell. Looking at the major endocrine gland, well, you should know those are the thyroid gland, the adrenal glands, the ovaries and testes, and the pituitary gland. Now, the hypothalamus, which is part of the brain just above the pituitary gland, is in charge of controlling that endocrine system. And the way it does, well, there's three different ways. Either a direct neural control. Looking at here the hypothalamus, there is a nerve message that's going to act on the adrenal gland to make it release a hormone such as epinephrine, for instance. You also have a direct release of hormone where the hormones move from the hypothalamus to the posterior pituitary gland where they are stored until we need them. That's the case for the antidiuretic hormone. And finally, you have indirect control through release of regulatory hormones. So it's a little bit more complex right there. See on the left, the hypothalamus, there is a releasing factor that will act upon the pituitary gland, going to secrete a regulatory hormone such as thyrotropin, and this will act on the thyroid gland to eventually release thyroid hormones. Now, there are three major types of hormones. Some of them are amino acid derivative, and I will not ask you to know the structure. You have polypeptide, so they can go from a few amino acids to several hundred of amino acids. And finally, you have steroid. We have that very characteristic structure based on 4 connected rings. That's common to all sterols. Now, how do they work? Well, when a hormone arrives to its target cell, it has to deliver its signal to create that chemical response inside the cell. Now we're going to look at the different ways. There's actually 2 big different ways. Steroid hormones are non-polar. So non-polar means that they can enter the cell directly by diffusion, and then they are going to actually find a receptor molecule in the cytoplasm, and they are going to enter the nucleus of the cell, and they can actually alter the DNA and change the production of a protein that is governed by a particular gene. Now, when we're looking at polypeptide or amine type of hormone, well, those can't cross the hydrophobic cell membrane, so they need to actually first bond to a receptor on the cell membrane. That's going to result in the release of a second messenger, and the second messenger can be very different, and the different type of sequence can vary. General 3 membrane-bound protein participate in the release of second messenger. You have the receptor, you have a G protein, and you have an enzyme. So this diagram summarizes very well how hormones work and looking at the different type of hormones. So looking on the top, you have a blood vessel. On the left side, you see steroid hormones. They are non-polar, so they can cross the cell membrane by diffusion. They will find a receptor on the cytoplasm, and they will act directly in the DNA inside the nucleus to change the gene activity. Now, going back to that blood vessel on the right side, you see amine or polypeptide hormone. Those are considered to be first messenger because they first need to find a receptor at the cell surface, so other word in the membrane, that's going to activate a second messenger that can have different type of actions. Here you have alteration in enzyme activity and a response on the target cell.